Uh, the the uninsured cost or the indirect cost is like a more common question anyway. Now, the strange thing is, I tell you, I don't know if I'll tell it again. So the strange thing is that there are four elements, and that's a lot of content, right? I mean, Nibosh is very heavy in terms of the teaching, but at the end of the course, there is just 7 or 8 questions. So not everything could come. Because if every line was to come, it'd be like an endless paper. So the strange thing is that chapter one, what you're doing right now is very common. So like it has some things we'll do like like next week, things are also common. There's some stuff that are common next week too. But like the third week, you'll find, okay, well, we're in chapter one, but you'll hear me say, this what we are doing is not very common. And you could check for yourself and you would see that there are no trending questions on it. So the course is like that. It have some things then that are hot for exam and it have some things that are not, right? But we will have to teach all. And like I said, my job is just to shout them out to you. It doesn't mean that they are 100% guaranteed. In fact, no one can do that. Not even your secondary school teachers, right? If you were being taught maths back in secondary school or whatever, right? History or chemistry or physics, the teacher would have said this type of question or sum is common, but that's not a guarantee, right? That's not a guarantee at all. But it is the best anybody could do, right? In terms of not being a psychic then, or not being a sort of Nostradamus kind of personality, the best we can do is tell you what is the trend, right? So let's go straight into this. I've already hit the record, but now the last recording is being converted. Still, yes. I don't know if you all have done these things, so you understand what I mean. When the class comes and ended, when I got back here today, I saw the thing still being processed on YouTube. So it's still being processed on another computer, right? I actually left that computer running and I'm on another computer in the hope that last night video. Now, if you are here and you all were here based on the register, you don't really need to look back at the video because it's fresh. But then you see, 2 months from now, 3 months from now, it wouldn't be that fresh then, right? So it's important that we put the videos up for you all. It's just that it works with how it works then, right? It's not an automatic thing. When we hit stop, the video is not ready. And based on where we put it, there's a copyright searching and going on right now, right? The last time I checked, when I sat down here, I saw it said 17 minutes again. I don't know if that by the end of tonight's class, if it goes up, I'll post it for you all. And what you'll be
Um,
getting is last night's recording. Tonight's would have to be processed, I guess, by tomorrow. Any
if I may,
questions?
what you could
Yeah, sure.
probably do is what we could probably try to do is just copy the link, paste
Yeah.
it in another browser window, and see if you can
Yeah.
access it.
But we have things we do with it. Like we have a YouTube channel. So we are trying to grow that channel as well. So for now, that is what we do, right? We do have a Google Classroom as well. However, the my thing is that I don't know if you all will change, but my thing is that people are not really using Google Classroom too much, right? So then it's the size of the file, the size of these file, because it's an hour and a half, it's very large. It's a bit difficult to it to be emailed, but we are trying to grow the YouTube channel at the moment, so the emphasis is on that. If you have not subscribed as yet, please, if you could actually, like, if the video is posted tonight, once you subscribe, you'll see it, right? And um, you know, I think this subscription is 950 something. We're trying to get to 1,000 to 1K right now. Schools and academics is not Hollywood, so it's not that, you know, famous kind of video and class forum anyway. But some of our videos have been doing very well. I think I mentioned, not too sure if I did, one of our videos got the highest views in terms of safety. Like if you were to research a particular aspect of safety, you'll see Shadrach videos coming up. So the emphasis is that we want to kind of grow the YouTube channel for a bit. And what I'm saying, if you are here then, like if you are here for the hour and a half, then I don't think you need to listen back the video the same night or the very next day. I do see the value in it, like as the weeks go by, as the months go by, when you start to forget, then you can listen back to the video. But if you are here for the live, and if you are not here for the live, those of us who hear in this anyway, it's just a matter of a day, right? One day wouldn't kill anybody for you to wait to get the recording anyway. That's how it is at the moment. That is how the YouTube, channel works in terms of copyright and running a search on their system to see if it has been, if there are any copyright issues, and there are no copyright issues because it's my original video, but the search has to happen the way the search has to happen, right? All right, let's make a start. So we left it here last night. And I think what I'm gonna have to do is do some writing. I don't know if you all have writing paper wrong. And I'll show you why. Now we have it on the slide, but sometimes it's good to sort of take it by step approach anyway. So we would have mentioned at length the name of the main law for health and safety in the UK. And despite the acronym here, I said the modern acronym is HSW. Most books have HSW Act or HSW by itself. An acronym is just an acronym. It's a fun way of remembering a longer point or sentence then, right? Which in this case is the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974. We also mentioned that that law is or was, and I think not really was, or probably still is, I guess, the foundational law for health and safety around the world, especially those countries that were governed by the British, right? And we went through all of the different countries, well, not all, but some of them in the region. We went through the states as well. And what happened when those countries now wanted to have a law for health and safety? Because they were under the British, a good idea was to just take the law you already had, and instead of calling it the HSW Act, well, just call it the OSH Act 1997 of Guyana, right? Or, the OSH Act 2015 of Grenada, or the OSH Act 2004 of Trinidad and Tobago, right? So that's what everybody did. And so when we say the HSW Act is the foundation, some people say the grandfather law, right, for health and safety around the world. I think that is indeed true. Now, the story is deeper than that, but the story wouldn't come for exam, right? The story is actually deeper than that, and the story goes way back. People have traced this. What you're looking at on the slide here, we can probably read one or two from it. Let's just read the first one, the middle one, and the last one, right? And I want to tell you something about it. So, the duty of the employer is to provide a safe place of work, including safe access and egress. Somewhere in the middle, the duty is to provide competent fellow employees. Last one, provide adequate facilities and welfare arrangements. So, just to tell you the story again in one sentence, the story actually says that it wasn't the British that actually wrote this, but it was. It was actually a man called Lord Reuben. But the inspiration then is like he wasn't the first. Like the British is the first to write it in modern terms then. But if you understand what they're trying to say is that there was always a duty for employers to provide a safe place of work. So there have been researchers who have traced this back to Rome, to the Roman Empire. Yeah, and then they say Rome didn't even invent this. They have traced these things back to the Egyptians, right? When they were working pyramids, they have traced these things were always there then, right? And then even in Egypt, they have traced it back to the Sumerians, right? So the story goes on and on that once you had workers and you had rulers, of course, they might not have said managers, they would have had rulers and emperors and stuff, right? There was always a duty because remember, it was your workers, right? It was their workers, it was their, if you were the governor or you were the ruler or you were the pharaoh, it was still your workers. So you had to take care of your workers. You had a duty then to provide a safe place of work, and you had a duty to provide all of these. The British was just the last empire to sort of kind of, rule and conquer. Of course, I mean, much of that is kind of, away now. Most, countries that have gotten independence anyway, but they were the last empire then. So what they say is that that duty has always been there as long as you had work anyway. As long as work was being done, there was something about supervision, even if you might not have liked it. Because, supervision could be rough back in the day if you were, more or less in the mines or whatever have you. But there was always supervision. There was always some measure of instruction. There was always some measure of welfare. In fact, they have traced a lot of the pyramids and stuff. The vast plains before the pyramids were often placed for eating, bakeries, right? Producing foods for the workers who are working on the different structures. So don't think it's the British, right? A lot of people blame the British and whatever, and which for some reasons that could be true. But knowledge has always been there that once they have been worked, there have been a duty on managers, if you want to call them that, to take care of their workers anyway, right? So what do you want to do tonight, having said that story? Hopefully I appreciated that a bit. That was extra, right? But what do we want to do? We want to go to the different sections of the act, right? Now, there are a couple of sections on the syllabus. There are about close to about 8 or 9 sections on the syllabus, right? So you want to go through all right now. And as we go through them, I'll tell you which sections are popular for exam, right? So what I did, in this context of the slide, this context would have covered moral, legal, and financial. That's how this came about, your moral, the right thing to do, the human thing to do, right? So moral, legal, and financial. However, like what I'm saying is that there's a deeper part of law then, other than moral, legal, financial. If you go into the law, it's going to kind of go into the law deeper than moral, legal, and financial. So moral, legal, and financial is a question by itself, but then the law is also a question by itself, right? So what I did on this slide, I went into the law, I did the laws, I did the sections of the laws, but I did it at the end, right? So if we all have this PowerPoint, I believe you'll have to scroll all the way down, like all the way down, right? I think it's the slide 77. So that's what I'll do here, right? And we'll come back. So these are the different sections of the act here. You'll start to see it from here. So this is like section 2, section 3, and stuff, right? So it's at the back of the PowerPoint. It is an open book test. You don't have to remember. I mean, I am going to write it, but you don't have to physically write it elsewhere, right? So let me mention one last time again, and I'm gonna see how best you all responded. But if you can't respond to it now, please try to respond to it by next week, Monday, right? So please remember having your cameras on is a requirement of the class, right? So if you could, during the hour and a half, well, much of it, 25 minutes has gone already. Try to put it on. Now, there's a reason for this, and there are many reasons, so I don't really want to go into all the reasons, right? But one of the reasons is that at the end of your exam, you have an interview to do with me. And part of the interview is an identity check. Like I have to see you, you have to show me a form of an ID. I have to be able to recognize you. Now, NIBOSH they audit those interviews, right? And they could come in the interview as well. So it cannot be then that after 4 months that I am now seeing, let's just say Frank, for the very first time. It cannot be. And if that is the case, well, number one, those who know me, that would not happen, right? That would not happen. I've already given the warning for next week already, right? So when you could turn it off if you are having something to eat, because I know, like I said, this is a strange hour anyway. Um, I am used to it, though. That's a strange thing though, because been teaching this for more than a decade now, and we used to really have class till 9 o'clock in the night. But that was before the pandemic and before Zoom and stuff and online applications. But face-to-face classes, man, they used to go till 9 o'clock in the night, which was miserable. But it is still that strange kind of time and that it's around the 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, half seven time. So if you could, I'll be looking out for it. And I'm gonna give a reminder of that because right now this is the only class in the school that doesn't have their cameras on, right? So we'll see how that goes. If it doesn't go well, I'm gonna have to raise it in another forum. And if that doesn't work well, you'd not be allowed to come into the class, right? I have mentioned that to you all before. It is a NIBOSH requirement, especially when NIBOSH audits, right? Like I said, they would ask for the videos, right? Remember, this is not it's my school, but it's not my course. So we cannot do what we want then, right? It's my thing, but NIBOSH is in England, and I have an auditor assigned to the school. Every school has one of which is they look at the class recordings, right? So you don't want it to be off. You could have it off. Please remember that. You could have it off. Somebody comes by, you're driving, you're traveling, please, turn it off. But you could toggle it back and forth. So we give all our students that privilege, especially this kind of weird hour of the day when you may be having something to eat anyway, right? So you could toggle it back and forth, but it can't be off. It cannot be then that the day for the interview, I'm seeing Frank. And I said, well, who's this? They said, well, this is Frank. I was in your class for the last 4 months. I said, well, I've never seen you. And then that is a cause of concern because that's an auditable fact in the closing interview. If you want, I could show you one of the sheets, but it's not on this desk. It's the other desk I have down there, right? So a visual identity check is part of the interview, right? Especially for online students anyway. All right, okay, let's go into this. If you want to write, please write. If not, and you have printed the PowerPoint, some people have done that, you could write on the PowerPoint. And if you don't want to write at all, that's okay too, because remember, it's an open book test. You could just open back the thing and see this slide and see the section two and whatever have you. All right, so let's go into it. I'm going to write it though. I'm going to write it. Yeah, go ahead.
A
Sorry.
minute before you continue, I'm currently sick. I'm in no condition to have my camera on for this week,
Definitely,
but
definitely. That's quite fine. Yeah, that's quite fine. Yeah, that's quite fine. Right. And like I said, just have to let me know. And like how you did that there. So in case this video is looked at by NIBOSH, they will know what happened, right? They will know that the student is not feeling well. Just let me know if you're traveling and stuff. That's how it is. But it have to be like that then. Because remember, folks, I'll say it again. I said it for orientation. This is not the new guy in our school. This is not even Shadrach. Because without Nibosh, I wouldn't really be anything, right? I would just be Shadrach safety running local courses, like somebody courses at the new guy in our school. But this is not that. This is Nibosh. So we have to do what they want us to do, right? This is good for recognition, but things that are good, then you normally have to comply with what they want, right? So that's how it is anyway. Thanks for the information. And again, anybody, like I said, the PowerPoint, I think I have emailed you all these PowerPoints. You would need to check back. If not, then let me know, and I would probably send it for you tomorrow. But I believe everybody may have had their PowerPoints emailed to them. Especially when I send the link, I would have sent the link, the syllabus, the brochure, right? And so if not, just let me know. As I mentioned, I'm actually at the office. So when I'm finished here, 7:30, Trinidad isn't that safe, right? To be out in the night. So I'm actually in the building all alone, there's no security or nothing. So when I'm finished, I'm gonna try to head home. And tomorrow morning, if you'll let me know, if you'll message me in the morning, I'll just email it in the morning anyway, as opposed to staying back here in the
can you
night.
send it in the WhatsApp group so everybody can get it?
I could email it. Okay, so could I ask then, does anybody have the PowerPoint? Anybody have the PowerPoint?
Yes, I
Okay,
checked my
so
mail and I do.
okay, right. So as I'm teaching, can you all just put it to the WhatsApp group if you all could do that? If anybody have the extra hands, because as I'm
No
teaching and I'm
problem.
focusing
No
here,
problem.
yes, I appreciate that, right? I really would appreciate that because I wouldn't be able to focus. I'll have to stop one thing and do the other thing. But if I want to teach, I would prefer teach and write, and you all could put it for me. So I would be very grateful and happy if you all could help out with that. All right, so let's go into this. As I said, I would want to write, and if you want, you could write too. You don't have to because it's an open book test and you could open back the slides, right? But that's an emphasis sake now, right? So the main law we said is the Health and Safety at Work Act. And there are some sections of the act on the syllabus. So we have to cover those sections. Now, please remember, I did tell you that some of it is common for exam, some of it is not common for exam. I will kind of hint to you what is common. So let's go to this first one. So the sections of the Act, the first one we have is section 2, subsection 1. It's looking at you on the slide, so I'm actually giving myself double work, right? But there's a reason for this. The reason is emphasis, right? So section 2, subsection 1, they say this is the general duty of the employer to the employees. Section 2, subsection 1 is the general duty of the employer to the employees. And what the general duty is, the general duty is like a statement. It's like an overarching statement. It is general, right? It's like an all-encompassing statement, which is why they say it's a general requirement. And the general requirement for you in Guyana is the same. We went through this yesterday already, right? So for Trinidad is the same. So the general duty of all employers are the same. The general duty is to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of all employees so far as is reasonably practical. But that same line, you know where it is. You know that line is in your act. You know that line is in everybody's act anyway, right? So if you want, you could put section 2, subsection 1 is the general duty, right? The general duty of the employer to the employees. Now, this is not that famous. In fact, this may not be famous at all because the general duty is sometimes tied into the other slide, which is section 2, subsection 2. Section 2, subsection 2. Let me just write it out first as I on this writing pad, right? Is the specific duty of the employer to the employee, right? It's the specific duty of the employer to the employee. That is a SPECIFIC, the specific duty of the employer. And why it's specific, you'll see in a bit. Well, this is actually what you saw yesterday, and that's what you saw when we opened the slides today. When it said the employer must provide safe access, egress, safe place of work, it's very specific. So we could wrap up section 2 by saying section 2 is the duty of the employer to the employees. Look at that here, in fact, right? The duty of the employer to the employees. The employer's duty are under section 2, right? Let me just try to get this slide to move. Zoom is a bit strange. When you write on Zoom, it doesn't, you have to change the marker back to get the slide to move, right? So we have to change it back now. So this is what they mean by specific. Section 2, subsection 2. It's the specific duties of the employers to the employees. And look how specific it is, right? Section 2A says the employer must provide and maintain provision and maintenance of plant, which is safe plant. The plant is where you are working, and systems of work, right? So you need to provide safe plant, which is a safe compound, a safe parameter, and safe systems of work. Now, if you're not sure what safe systems of work are, I can tell you, but I can tell you one, because that's actually chapter 3, right? So systems of work or safe systems of work is like a permit, like a work permit. If you've heard about hot work on, high tension wires, right? Risky work then would normally require a permit. So that is called a safe system of work. If anyone here is in safety and you know what a JSA is, a job safety analysis, a JSA is like a safe system of work. And if you're still not clear what that is, well, you could just think of it as job instructions. If you are given the instructions to do your job, that's called a system of work. That's how you're going to get the work done. It's a safe system of work, right? So you can write it down if you don't know it. The duty on the employer is to provide and maintain safe plant, which is your facility, and you must be given job instructions. There are many versions of safe systems of work. I mentioned about 3 there, one of which is a permit. If you know about workers getting a permit, like a welder, getting a permit to do a weld, or getting job instructions, all of those are the duty of the employer to the employee. That's section 22A, right? Now, probably before we move on, I could tell you this now. Or do I leave it for the end? I can tell you now, right? I'm gonna tell you it now. So if they ask you for the specific duties under section 22, you have to give the number and the letter as well. You have to quote the number and the letter. As I said, thank God it's not a memory-based exam. You can just open back the PowerPoint and see the numbers and the letters. So 22A, 22B, 22C, 22D, E, F, G, H, etc. But the F, E, H, the F, E, H, whatever, those are not on your syllabus. Only these 5 are on your syllabus, right? I don't know if you want to take a note of that. And maybe as I'm in the office today, I don't know if you can see that chart there. Might be able to see all of it. But I think that's what we did on orientation day, that NIBOSH offers certificate, diploma, masters, right? So if you wonder, well, why am I talking about that? I'm talking about that because you see what happens, not everything in the law is on your syllabus. Not everything in the HS, you cannot learn everything in the certificate then, right? There's some stuff for the degree, there's some stuff for the masters, right? So the HSW Act section 22 didn't stop at E. However, if you're listening, only up to E is on your syllabus. So the other slide I have here, if I can get it to, I'm trying to get this slide to move, right? I think I have to take back off the marker. These here then, E, F, G, H. By the way, this have a typo on it here, right? E, F, this is supposed to be G and H. None of it, these are not on your syllabus, though, right? I put this here to kind of prove to the students that the act didn't stop at E. It didn't stop. In fact, it didn't even stop at G. There's actually more. There's actually there's actually 2 subsection, 2, 1 and stuff, right? But not everything is on your syllabus, right? What is on your syllabus is this slide right here. Up to here. A, B, C, D, E. Those are the 5 that are on your syllabus, right? I don't know if you want to, maybe it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea. If you want to download the HSW Act, and I mean it's on Google and stuff, and put it in a folder. There'll be some other things to download as the course go along. Probably by Tuesday next week, there'll be some stuff you'll see, there'll be alerts, there'll be some stuff to download. So like we normally tell our students, open a folder, like you could call it, but a folder in a folder, right? So because there'll be stuff to download as you go through the whole course now. So like if you're in chapter 1, you could download a folder, open a folder on your desktop, call it NIBOSH, my NIBOSH or something, and then open a folder in it and call that chapter 1. Because there'll be some stuff to put in chapter 1, and then you have chapter 2, there's some stuff for that. Chapter 3 have a good bit, chapter 4 have a couple of stuff too. Not much, I don't see it being 10, like it's not 10 additional documents, but this is tertiary education, so sometimes there is the source reference then. So even though the syllabus has up to 5 requirements, you could actually get the whole act, right? And have a look at the whole act. The whole thing wouldn't come, but who knows if something will come in the 5. No, they wouldn't go out the syllabus. As the next thing, NIBOSH wouldn't do you that. NIBOSH wouldn't give you a diploma question at the certificate level. But it may be just good knowledge to know that the act is not just 5. It's not just 5 things the employer have to do. There are more things. And maybe in your career, doesn't have to be now, because we know when you all get your NIBOSH cert, you will have been employed. But later on, if you want to get to the diploma, or to some of the sideline courses, process safety, environmental and stuff, at least you know then, well, the act did mention environment, or it did mention other things. It did mention work equipment that is not in the 5 here, right? Let's try to read out those 5, and then I will check the comments. So the point of this was that you have to know the number and the letter. If you didn't get it yet, the point of that whole story was that you have to know the number and the letter, right? So 22B, the duty of the employer is to provide safe handling storage, and transport of articles and substances. 22C, the employer is to provide for you information, training, instruction, and supervision. There used to be an acronym we used to remember that before the pandemic. I don't know if I could tell you it. Remember, you all don't really need an acronym because it's an open book test, so you all don't really need an acronym. But remember, sometimes if you go out there in the workplace, you may want to remember what the law have in it, right? What the OSHA, your OSHA have in it, right? So the acronym we used to use before the pandemic was this. It is ITIS, right? It is. But there's no need to remember that anymore because it's an open book thing. You can open the slide and you can see it. You can watch back the video and then do the question, right? So the employers to provide information, training, instruction, and supervision for their employees. 22D, the employers to provide and maintain safe place of work with adequate access and egress. Access means a place of coming in. Egress means a means of getting out. 22E, the employer must provide adequate levels of welfare and welfare arrangements, which includes a lot, kitchen, drinking water, washrooms, hand sanitizers. If you're in a chemical-based company, eye wash, first aid, all of those fall under welfare facilities today. It's not just water, then it's not just toilets and water, it's not just washrooms and drinking water. Today, if you want to write some of these things down, please write it down. As I did say, their welfare include things like temperature. Yeah, the temperature of the room you're in. Welfare is that. Humidity, lighting, ventilation. It really don't have no question on this. I just telling you that, it don't have no question on welfare like that then. Like what is welfare by itself, right? But what I'm trying to tell you, welfare is more than just drinking water then. Your lunchroom, a microwave, a refrigerator, all of those are under welfare today. Cups, right? Water from a dispenser, eye wash stations, right? I did mention some again there. First aid rooms, first aid facilities, bandages. All of these things are under welfare today. During the pandemic, the thermometers, the temperature guns, the hand sanitizers, the face masks, all of those things were under welfare, right? But there is no deeper welfare question. I'm just trying to tell you that welfare is more than what you think it is, right? Tell me if you're okay with this. This is the big five, as they call them, the duty of the employer to the employees, which is what your company must provide for you. Remember, there are more duties, but the rest of them are not on your syllabus. Feel free to read it. I'm going to continue with this syllabus, right? I did put them on the slide, right? Just have to number them properly, right? So this would be E, F, G, and H. These wouldn't come, so it doesn't matter here though, but there are some other requirements and it doesn't even stop at H either. It's just that I put these here to prove to you all that the act didn't stop at just 5. However, the NEBOSH question must stop right there, right? Remember, we can't do what we want, right? We have to do what NEBOSH want. So what's on the NEBOSH syllabus is this 5 here. All right, I'm moving on, and let's go to section 3. I feel like I squeeze it in here. I just have to probably take out, let me take out the it is, right? And let's go to section 3, and I'll try to squeeze that here as well, right? Let me get this slide to line up, as I don't have the markers yet. So section 3, right? So let's write that out for you as well. So section 3 is the duty of the employer, yes, the same employer. Section 3 is the duty of the employer to non-employees, right? So the question is asked, who then is a non-employee? Anybody want to answer that? Who you think is a non-employee? Section 3 is the duty of the employer to non-employees. Well, who is a non-employee? Well, who else is coming to the company? Who is coming to your company that's not an employee? Anybody have an answer for that?
Customer for one.
Contracted workers from other companies.
Good, excellent, excellent, excellent. I have nothing to add, right? In fact, in fact, again, that piece of information might not be in this level, but when they wrote Section 3, who they had in mind was contractors. Today, though, non-employees are taken to be exactly what you all said, visitors. If you want to get call somewhere, you do not have to write it down because this by itself is not a question. It's just who is a non-employee, right? And the answer is the main person when they wrote this law down, right? They had in mind contractors, but today it's taken to be visitors, customers, clients, someone selling, like sellers. You know, people normally come to your companies. Some of them may be selling snacks, they may be selling water, they may be selling soft drink, right? They are on your compound. There are lots of companies. Oh, somebody's calling my phone this late in the evening. I think some students know I work late anyway. Did I see this in Guyana? Boy, I think I did, you know, there are some vendors that go to companies, right? And they sell food. I saw this in Guyana, right? There are some vendors, they have, you have refiller wagons, and they go to the companies around lunchtime. They come in the compound and literally in 10 minutes time, these vendors are sold out, right? They have, well, you would know it. They'll have, I might be able to know, they might have different types of chicken pies and different types of drinks and whatever have you, right? Like sort of milk drinks and stuff, right? So these things are sold out very fast, right? And so these people are coming to your compound. Then you have auditors, you have people like me, you have consultants, you have trainers. So those are your non-employees, right? They even have the police, the police, the firemen, maybe some sort of customs officer. Those are not really your employees, but they may be at your compound. So listen to this. And then what is the duty? If all these persons, customers, visitors, clients, what about students? There are students that come to your compound. Students may be doing a project. A student may have gotten permission and the student is in your compound, right? But what is the duty then of the employer to the non-employee? Let's see. So it says here, the duty of the employer to the non-employee is to ensure the health, safety of non-employees so far as is reasonably practicable. Now, if we go back up, in fact, let me read out this slide, right? Specific duties to take care for the health and safety of non-employees. Think of yourself, like when you go to a company, if you have gone to a company, right? Even if it was a project, right? They would provide you with instructions. They'll provide you with information, perhaps like where to go, where not to go. What about if you want to use the washroom? What about if you want to go to the cafe? You are a visitor, you are a customer, you are a police officer, but they want to use the washroom. Would you be able to use it? The answer is yes, right? They are to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of the non-employees, right? If you are self-employed, if you are like the owner of a small business, a curry shop, right? Some sort of, bakery. You are self-employed. So self-employed persons must give non-employees information affecting their health and safety as well, right? So a good way to wrap this up, let me just put it here for you. A good way to wrap this up, the duty of the employer to non-employees, right? Listen to how I'm going to say it, and this is how most people understand it, right? The duty of the employer to non-employees is actually the same as employees. Think about what I said there. The duty of the employees, the duty of the employer to the non-employees is the same as the duty the employer would have to his own employees. In other words, if you provide drinking water for your employees and a consultant comes along, or even, like I said, a vendor, and the vendor wants, some water, would you not give that vendor some water, right? If you give your employees instructions. So you say on this site, you must wear full PPE, right? You cannot come through the gate, you cannot come in the gate without full PPE, right? So if I'm a visitor, I come into the compound must wear full PPE, right? You understand that? So the duty of the employer to non-employees is actually the same. The same care you take for your own workers that you must take care of the non-employees. Tell me if I get that one a bit. And I'll tell you about the exam. And I'll tell you one interesting fact about that one. But it's not really mentioned in this level here, right? But it's interesting because, that's what makes knowledge interesting anyway, right? So the duty of the employer so far, the duty of the employer to his own employees is under section 2.2. The duty of the employer to non-employees is under section 3, right? And what is that duty? We could sum it up and say the duty to non-employees is actually the same. Think about you going to a compound, you going to be interviewed. You are not an employee as yet, but you want to use the washroom, or you want to know, well, where is the office? They will actually tell you, well, these areas are off limit, right? And if you want to use the washroom, but this is the washroom. This, if you want, maybe do you want to, some water, whatever have you, or this is the cafe while you're waiting to be interviewed, right? So you are given you are given information, you are given instruction as well. Tell me what you think there. On this one, you're okay with this one? And I'll tell you, like I said, two things, the exam and then the interesting fact on it. What say E? Anything? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So the thing I wanted to mention here, recently, this is not on your syllabus, but remember, it's all about keeping up to date, right? Yes, go ahead. You want to repeat? I think that one kind of broke up a bit. Let me check out. Okay, maybe we can come back to that because I mean it wasn't clear on my side, right? Yeah, so an interesting fact is today, listen to this, right? Trespassers have been included in section 3. If a trespasser come on your site, I don't know if you guys want to try, if a trespasser come on your site, you have to ensure that that trespasser is also safe. A trespasser is a non-employee.
Okay, well, a trespass is not supposed to be there, but if something is to happen to that person, then that becomes the responsibility of the company. And of
Yes.
course.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, everything have a history behind it, right? That actually happened because of a case in England where a boy, 6-year-old boy, went onto a train line. The long and short of it is that his mom sued the railway board. And the railway board made that decision that the boy was a trespasser. But it was the duty of the rail company to safeguard, and if you read the first line, to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of non-employees. So today, trespassers have been included in section 3. Folks, that is not exam, that's just the interesting fact, right? Anyway, for exam, what I could tell you, remember everything we do, because this course, and you hear me say this in the whole course, because this course is not from Trinidad, Guyana, the New Guyana school, right? It's from the real England, the real NIBOSH in the UK. You have a exam to pass now, right? And no offense, folks, no offense, because remember I work with the New Guyana school. But for those who know the T-BOSH program, and what I'm trying to tell you is that Robert cannot pass you with this course. And I cannot pass you either. In fact, that's why you're here. You're here because you wanted a globally recognized certificate. You're here because you wanted the real thing. Well, if you didn't know you wanted, was I did say vacancies are asking for it in Guyana. So it's the real thing, right? And to get the real thing is not hard. but yeah, remember it have an exam, right? And I am not correcting it. If you all know Robert is not correcting it. Miss Barbara is not correcting it. Nobody in the region correcting it. And going to England, right? And that's good. Because see, when you pass, your paper will be worth something. It's said that you are the best of the best then, and you pass this NEBOSH course. And Guyanese have been doing well, all the time. We told you that, you all do better than the Trinidad students all the time. I was at a company. I was at more than one company. I was at Exxon. I was at DDL. I kept telling them the same thing, that Guyanese are doing the best in the region. Better than Trinidad, of course, better than Grenada by a long shot. No offense, right? I do have classes there too, but Grenadians have the worst pass rate, right? They have the worst pass rate. And that's not all of them, but if you compare it to Grenada, if you compare to Trinidad and Guyana, Guyana is the best in terms of pass rates, and Grenada right now is the worst. It could change. Every cycle is different, but Guyanese have been consistent. Y'all have been consistent since we started 5 years ago, right? Anyway, let's get to section 4. So the point of that, if you didn't get it, is that there are really no questions on section 3 in the history of the exam so far. When I told you about the exam question, so we have section 2 questions, right? Section 2 is the most famous. If you want to take a note of that, section 2 is the most famous question. However, we have no questions on section 3, right? So I just have to call it as how it is now. I cannot make up and tell it have a question on section 3. There are no questions on section 3, right? So let's go to section 4. And this will be, if you all want, could I do section 4? I guess I'm going to do it one by one, but I would have liked to do it together, right? So could I put section 4 and section 5 as I'm writing? I put 4 and 5. Sorry, I put 4 and 6. And I'll tell you why, right? And let's try to get this slide to move a bit. Now, please, like I said, don't just log off mentally when I say something is not a past paper. But at the same time, that's just like a trend now, right? But the trend is correct. The trend is the trend. That's why it's called a trend, right? So as we go into section 4 and section 6, I'll tell you what happened to section 5 just now too. There are no questions on section 4 or section 6. Trends, right? Just trends. Trends is not 100% accurate. It's just a trend, right? So there are zero, if you're not getting it, there are no questions on section 4 in the history of this exam. That doesn't mean you wouldn't get one. If you get one, great, because they're going to teach it. I'm teaching it. I'm just telling you in terms of the trend, they could open pass it, but there are no questions on section 4. There are no questions on section 6 at this level. At the degree level, the students may get a question on section 6, but you all don't have any questions on section 6. Your question normally comes on section 2. I don't know how to highlight that here for you all because I may mark up this slide a bit. Hopefully you all can mark it now. Like if you have a highlight, you can highlight section 2 is the most common section, for example. Okay, let's go to section 4. So section 4 is the duty of persons in control of premises. Let me read out all and explain. The persons in control of premises, they are to ensure that the workplace is safe and without risk to health. They are to ensure safe access and egress. They are to ensure safe plant and substances. So let's read that over. Let's read the heading over and see who is this, right? So section 4 is a duty placed on the person in control of a premise or premises. So if you didn't pick it up yet, this section is interpreted to be like the owner of a building, and that's the graphic I have here, like a landlord. In fact, this section is commonly called the landlord section. Notice the duty here is not on the employer, but it's on the owner of the building. Think about it a bit. Let's think about But I know some of y'all working, right? But I might know exactly where you're working. But let's think about one of the malls you have in Guyana, right? Let's think about Giftland Mall, right? Of course, if you're from across the bridge, maybe like the Lenora Mall, but what they could agree on, right, is like the different booths then in the mall, the different outlets, the Massy stores, right? The Jade Monkey, whatever you have, right? The different clothing stores, the Glamour connections, right? The mall is owned by somebody, right? Amazonia Mall, we all know the owners there, right? But the mall is owned by somebody. So that person, the owner of the mall, is seen as the controller of the premises, right? And if you think about it a bit, a lot of companies are also rented. A lot of companies, they may have an office in Georgetown, but the building, they are renting in that building. So you may have the employer, but the employer is not the owner. The employer is paying rent to a landlord. So Section 4, see if you understand the difference. Section 4 is the duty on the landlord. So if you own that building, like if you own the building, what is the duty of the owner of the mall then? So the owner of the mall is to ensure that the workplace is safe and without risk to health. The owner of the building or the mall, whichever one you could identify with, is to ensure safe access and egress, is to ensure safe plant and substances that are on the premises, right? If those examples are too big for you, well, in terms of a mall, and a mall is a big example, you can think of yourself. Think about people who rent, right? I rented when I was studying, I rented, right? And if you are renting, well, like I said, the landlord is to ensure that the place is safe, right? The landlord, things like is to ensure like you have a key for your gate to open and close, safe access and egress, right? So if you are a tenant and you are paying rent, the landlord has certain responsibilities, and that's what's happening in the mall. All those different outlets are paying rent to the owners of the mall. That's what's happening in the building where you have more than one offices. The employers, the companies that may be there, the insurance companies, right? The offices of the contractors that may be there, they are paying rent to the owner, but the owner of the building has a duty to ensure that the building is safe and without risk to the health of the tenants in that building. Think you get it? So we can I'll put here section 4. I'll put the common name, right? The common name is that section 4 is the duty on landlords. Landlords. That's actually how they say it in England, you know? Like if the common name is as a duty on the landlords. However, just remind me again how many questions you have on this for the exam. Is this a trending topic or is this not a trending topic? Section 4. Section 4. Is section 4 a trending section? Or is it not a trending section?
I believe it is 4 and 6 are not trending, that you don't get questions on it at this level.
Yeah, it's not trending, right? It's not. And I'll prove that to you just now, right? I'll prove that to you just now. And as the course go along, you know, I'll be giving you some papers, you know, this week is your first full week of teaching, right? You could look from now till you finish this course, you would not see a section 4 question. I have a paper right in front of my hand here, but I'll show you one just now, right? Like I said, it's only 7 or 8 questions. It's a big syllabus. Some things are famous, some things are not. My job is to teach all, but it's also to tell you what is famous and what is not famous, right? Okay, I'm moving to section 6. Here, what I'll do, right? 7:15, which is about 10 minutes again. Or maybe 7:20. I'll stop and I'll show you a past paper. Then I don't want you to do it. I just want you to see it because you see, like I said, we have a battle in front of us.
You know, you've been promising us that this every single class.
That's good. Yeah, I know. Remember
Every
last
class
night?
without fail.
Yeah, yeah. But remember, well, there are some choices we have. Number one, we could stop and do it, or we could do the theory. Last night, we went on to talk about the law, right? So it's kind of, remember, it's an hour and a half we have, and there shouldn't be, to me, too much of a need to look at a past paper, especially when I'm telling you. But I'll try to stop and look at one. We have to stop, though. right? We wouldn't be able to do all, right? Because if you do all, then you can't do the passive, but it's kind of one or the other one anyway, right? Let's go to section 6. Let's go to section 6. So section 6 is the duty of suppliers, manufacturers of articles and substances, right? And so you can think of section 6 as a duty on the manufacturer. So what is the duty on a manufacturer? And of course, you all make a lot of stuff, right, in Guyana as well as anywhere else in the world, right? So a manufacturer is to ensure that whatever they are making is safe and without risk to health. If it's an article, well, it must be safe when they are set, clean, used, and maintained. If it's a chemical that you are making, if it's dishwashing liquid or some sort of hand sanitizer, substances must be without risk to health when they are used, handled, stored, or transported. We can get to the next slide. If you are a manufacturer, you must provide what is called like an MSDS sheet, a material safety data sheet with your chemicals, right? And as a manufacturer, you may need to give a guarantee of your product. You need to guarantee, well, it's good for, 1 year warranty or whatever have you, right? So this one is fairly simple. I don't know if you get it there. You are also responsible for testing your product. Testing it. Well, I mean, you have to go through quality tests if you want to put this on the market. There'll be certain customer, channels that I guess you have to do in Guyana as well, right? Consumer affairs and stuff to get, like your product on the market. But you have to test it. Let's say you were making some sort of equipment, a pump, a hose. It has to be tested, and it may be tested to like an international standard. And then all of that will be featured on the product and the instructions that you have manufactured this hose, this pump, this seal, this cleaner, this ingredient, and these are the information on it, right? As I did mention to you all, section 6 does not have any questions for your level as well, right? It may have, because before the pandemic it had. However, after the pandemic, we haven't had a question on section 6, right? So manufacturers, is the responsible person here. And in terms of the exam, there already no questions here anyway, right? Let's do one more. Let's do one more, section 7. So looking at the time, like I said, we wouldn't get to finish all of the sections if we want to look at a past paper, right? So let's go to section 7. Now I clean this slide because section 7 is the second most tested section of the HSW Act. It's just as common as section 2, right? And if we can turn the slide a bit, you'll see why it's common as section 2, right? So section 7 is the duty of employees. This is your duty, right? And there are two main duties here for employees worldwide. We normally refer to these as section 7.1. So this is section 7.1. And then we have section 7.2, right? So you may need to kind of quote this one exam. The 2 bullet points represent section 7.1 as well as section 7.2. So what are the duties of employees? The duties of employees are to take reasonable care for the health and safety of yourself and others, which is your fellow workers, who may be affected by your actions or your omissions. What are your omissions? Your omission is your failure to act. So workers can be affected by your actions if you're working unsafe, like horseplaying. But if you have seen something unsafe then, or if you were the last person to use a piece of equipment, I'll give you a simple example. You're the last person to use a drill, and you notice the drill had an electrical short circuit on it. You got shocked. Not in a bad way. It's probably just 110 volts anyway, right? But you didn't say anything. You didn't inform the other workers then that, the drill has a electrical short circuit in it, right? So in that way, then that's an omission. That's your failure to act, right? So you have to take care of yourself and others by your actions and even by your omissions. You shouldn't omit to tell them anything then, right? So if something is unsafe, if you drove the company vehicle, the last one that drove it, and you realize, okay, the brakes is feeling a bit, low, it's feeling as if it's not holding the disc pads, whatever have you, right? Well, you need to inform the fellow employees. It's your duty to take care of yourself and that of others. Another duty is to cooperate with the employer to enable them to fulfill their legal obligations. Now, not to break the law, but to satisfy the law, right? In other words, that if the company has purchased PPE for you, you should put it on once it's comfortable. I mean, if something is painful, then I think you need to inform them that maybe the safety shoes is hurting your foot. Maybe you have the wrong size, right? What they have given you is the wrong size shoe, right? Other than that, though, safety glasses, this is not a safety glasses, but safety glasses, if they are uncomfortable for you, there are certain things you can buy a better brand. You could probably use our goggles over your glasses. If you use prescription glasses, you could possibly have it treated, right? There are certain workers who tend to sweat a lot and the glasses tend to fog, but you can have that treated with an anti-fog agent to kind of, make it better for you. But other than that, if you are provided with PPE, then you should comply, right? So you need to cooperate with the employer, and not just PPE. PPE is just one example. Other examples could be like if they have safety meeting in the morning, 7 a.m., you shouldn't find yourself in the washroom every day they have safety meeting. And I mean, you may want to go for real, but it shouldn't be an excuse then that, like you're not going to the safety meeting. So if there's safety meeting, you need to attend, you need to cooperate with the employer to enable them to fulfill their legal obligation. What do you think about these two? We'll stop it right here if we want to have a look at the passive. We could actually finish them, but we can't. We have to choose one or the other, right? Passives are really, like I said, something to kind of start to focus your mind on the fact that it is an exam at the end, right? And the faster we can start to kind of focus your mind on that, the faster they could get. A lot of students at the end of the course say, a lot of the stuff that they prepared for came, but sometimes the best preparation is just being aware of how a question comes, right? NIBOSH does have a couple of trending topics, but once you know the technique from last night, I told you about passing exam is about a technique, then any question, you'll be able to decipher it anyway. Tell me if you're okay with this. And while you're thinking about that, I'll just recap what we did. We did section 2.1, the general duties of the employer to the employee. We did section 2.2, very big section, perhaps the most common section for exam is section 2.2. We looked at some of the subsections 2.2a, 2.2b, 2.2c, 2.2d, 2.2e. There are other letters, but the other letters not on your syllabus. We looked at section 3, 4, 6, and section 7. I did promise to tell you what happened to section 5. Well, section 5 got itself repealed, so there's no more section 5, right? Initially, section 5 had dealt with the environment. However, they came up with their own environmental law in England, so there was no need to repeat it in the safety law. So they repealed section 5, and section 5 is now part of the Environmental Protection Act that they have in the UK anyway. Tell me what you all think. Are you all okay so far? Yeah, Nikita, Cassie, not too well there, right? We have Tanisha, Shondell, Onissa, Sidoris.
No question, no question.
So, okay. No question. Which one? Okay, let's have a look at the passive. Now again, what I did here, right? I did this on random. I didn't want to plan anything. Basically, if I planned something, it meant that I would be lying, that meaning that, I just opened the first paper that came to my mind this evening. Remember I told you I came down, from where I'm at pretty late. I didn't plan anything, right? And that is good because, planning mean then that it would have been biased, but because it wasn't planned, you can see for yourself. So this is a typical paper. Let's have a look at it. We won't be able to go, remember, we just gonna introduce the concept of it, right? So a past paper has about a 2-page case study. This is 1 page here. Not too long when you all did English for CXC or GCE, you had longer passages than that. That's just 1 page there. As the weeks go by, we will stop. Like I said, by next week, Tuesday, I'll be giving you a question to do. This is the 2nd page. And you'll remember doing CXC English. I don't know if anybody remember. CXC English had some long paper 1, if you remember paper 1. The paper 2 was the one with the essay and the comprehension and stuff. But the paper 1, if you remember, some long, 10 pages long. 10 page. I remember them. I used to teach, right? I taught for a number of years as well. So anyway, but for NEBOSH, it's 2 pages long. And then you have, let's check how much questions. That's question 1. That's question 2, task 2, task 3. It's not like 100 questions then. That's what I was trying to tell you, right? Task 4, task 5, 6. I'll slow down on 1 just now, 7. So out of the whole syllabus, 7 questions. So it's a kind of hit and miss, isn't it? That's why you have to learn the technique, right? No, let's go back. Let's go back and see. As I said, I didn't plan it. I didn't plan it, right? I opened the first paper that I thought about, and I did that on purpose, right? But if I am correct, what it means then that there should be a question 1 or a chapter 1 question here. And watch the first question. The first question is on health and safety morals, which is something we did last night. In other words, then 3 months from now, health, moral, legal, and financial is still as important as we said it would be. The month before you write the exam, moral, legal, and financial, the very first week you had is still one of the most important week that you would have in the course, right? So there's a question on health and safety morals. I don't know if you all could read this line with me. I did tell you all in orientation, they're very strange. Some people don't, so like for some, I have realized this. I'll make that comment outright. A lot of Caribbean people find this course a bit, well, some find it easy, but then initially when you now come, you find it hard because one of the things you have to understand is that the answers, I told you this yesterday, isn't you. And the answer is in the case scenario. Look at here, they say you should support your answer where applicable using relevant information from the scenario, not from the textbook, not from Google, not from the encyclopedia, from the scenario, right? And once you understand that, one of the statements I made in orientation day is that this exam is like a big comprehension. A lot of the answers for that, the 11 answers for that is in the case study. I'll say that again, I probably said it too fast. The 11 answers they're looking here for, this is 11 points, is 11 answers. That's a technique. Remember, I think on orientation day we cover that is 1 mark, 1 point. Every point you put gets a mark. So if you see 11 marks, you have to give them 11 unacceptable things that the managers are doing. If you forgot that, please write it down.
That is what I was trying to ask. If because the question's 11 marks, we have to give 11 lines.
Okay, so could you say again? It's coming in a bit low.
I was about to ask, but you just mentioned the question is 11 marks, so it needs 11 lines, 11 answers.
Yeah, I think 11 answers is correct, not 11 lines, because an answer may be more than a line, but it's 11 answers, yes. Yeah, right? Passing NEBOSH is like the game of cricket. Every ball you hit is one run. Well, I mean, they can make more than 1 run out of it, but it's kind of like that then. Like to get 11 marks, you have to give them 11 answers. Okay? So let's just kind of look through the rest of the questions. Question 2, the approach taken to the review. Question 3, the benefits of combined worker and employer involvement. That's a question from chapter 3. Task 4, accident investigation procedure. That is actually chapter 4, right? Task 5, identify the influence of organizational and job factors. That is elementary. Task 6, what is task 6 on? Read task 6 on me. What does task 6 say? Determining what?
Determining uninsured costs incurred from the accident.
That was actually last night class again. So remember I told you some sittings you're lucky. No, not all sittings you're this lucky, yeah? This sitting, this is December 2023, last year. December, they got 2 questions in the very first class they had. And most students like these questions. When they see those questions, they like them because it have harder things in the course now, right? So the question said, what possible uninsured costs, right? What would the possible uninsured costs be for the nursery from this accident? 12 marks. So we need 12 uninsured costs. You should support your answer where applicable using relevant information from this scenario. I wonder if I could show you one. I'm looking at the time. I could probably show you one or maybe 2, right? The question is which one we want to do though. Do we want to do number 1 or number 6? Let's just do number 6 as we on this one already, right? So what you want to do here, folks, if you want to write with me, now remember I said the answer is in you and in the case study, right? So the question is what would the possible uninsured costs be for the nursery from the scenario? So what I will do, I would write a sentence, but I'm not going to write it here because it'll take too long. So I want you to write it. I will just put the answer down, right? So I would write the possible uninsured costs for the nursery from this accident can be. That's what I write in here. I'm writing the possible, I just drawing a line, but you could write it. The possible uninsured costs for the nursery from this accident can be, and then you have to put a possible uninsured cost, right? Now we did it last night. So let me just shout out about 4 or 5 for you and see if you could pick one. So do you think a possible uninsured cost could be retraining? Do you think a possible uninsured cost could be closure of the nursery, like lost production then, right? Do you think a possible uninsured cost could be a fine? Do you think a possible uninsured cost could be like maybe a civil action? Do you think a possible uninsured cost could be loss of reputation by the nursery because of an accident and that parents don't want to send their children there anymore? Do you think those are all possible uninsured costs? Yeah, so we're just picking one, right? Now, there's a technique to this, but folks, today is your second full class, right? So we're just doing one at a time here. So what I would have done, I would have write down all 5 on a sheet of paper, but that's another technique for another day, right? So today the technique is how to formalize the answer. So I would say the possible uninsured costs, right, for the nursery from the accident can be, and I'm going to put here something here like loss of business or loss of future business or loss of clients, right? So loss of clients. And you can explain that. If it is a nursery, that means parents may not be so happy to send their kids to where it have an accident, right? So loss of business is what I'll put here, right? You could write this out better for me, I guess. So BUSINESS, right? It's being spelled wrong. I'll spell it out for you. BUSINESS, right? Okay, so when you finish that, spell it twice, right? BUSINESS. When you finish that, you put a full stop, right? But check this, that's not the end of it. That's not the end of that point, right? That's not the end of that point. So the end of the point, when you come and you say a possible uninsured cost for the nursery from the accident can be loss of future business, you put a full stop. but you have to tie in the line, right? To get the mark for NEBOSH, you must put a quote. You should support your answer where applicable using relevant information from the scenario. So what you're going to have to do, you're going to have to go and search the scenario to find something with that. And you have to say, this is seen, the next sentence will be, this is seen in the case study where it was mentioned. Please write it for me, the Zoom marker based on my time. This is seen, THIS, this is seen in the case study where, this is seen where, and you have to give a quote. You could choose direct quotation, this is seen where it was mentioned, or you could use indirect quotation. You can say it back in your own words, but you must put a quote then from the case study. You could use direct quotation if you want. You can say, this is seen where it was mentioned, the accident, the parents may be taking their kids somewhere else then, you know? So you have to find that. And that is what takes the time. I'll say that again. I'm going to say something again. Do you know how long people take to do this exam? You want to make a guess how long they take? Do you all know anybody who did this exam? Did they tell you how long they took to take to do this exam? Anybody know anybody who did this before? You have any friend that did NEBOSH? No? Okay. But some people just take whole day and whole night. Say, well, what are they doing? Because it's not the answer. What are they doing? Well, what you have to do, we call this technique, folks, could I take this off? I guess if I'll have to scroll up, right? If I scroll up, it means if I already write in. You see? We call this the needle in the haystack approach. You have to find now an answer. I guess I have to clean it, right? You have to find a line that support that answer. Who said that? Not me. The exam said that. They said you should support your answer with the relevant, lines from the scenario. So we could actually go, we have 23 minutes past 7. We could use a technique called fishing. Right? Now, fishing is not the best technique, but based on time, fishing is the best technique, right? So you're looking for where the accident is. The case study normally have some headings. Let's see if it have any headings. If not, yeah, see it have here the review. So that's a heading. So we can try to zone in on where the accident happened, right? And this is, now you shouldn't do this because remember you have the whole day, but I have 7 minutes. Right? Let's see what happened here. Okay, look at here. So the apprentice decided that as the weather was nice, they will take their group of children outside to garden B. Worker A said that the apprentice must not have known about the rule of having 2 workers present in the garden area anytime children are taken outside. Is an apprentice going outside, right? While outside, the apprentice went to help a child down from a climbing frame. The apprentice climbed up 2 rungs of the wooden climbing frame ladder, and when they stepped onto the 3rd rung and stretched to help the child climb down, the rug, which is the treader of the ladder, snapped and broke then, right? The apprentice fell, landing on their wrists and cried out in pain. This alerted other workers inside the building. No one knew what to do. Listen to that. No one knew what to do, as there was no first aider on the site. So the DM, I guess that they would have said who that is on top, right? Sent the apprentice home. Worker A explained that the apprentice later went to the local hospital where it was confirmed that the apprentice had a fractured wrist, right? Now, you could actually use all of that. Remember, we're looking at uninsured costs, right? Let's see what happened here. I'm trying to find a line on something about, like loss production or something like that. I'm trying to find something about, loss of business, right? So let's say I could I'm trying to use fishing again, to see if I could find anything there. And I didn't find anything. But that's because, let me see if I can go back. So this is what takes the time. As I told you before, what takes the time by that open book exam is finding these lines and them, right? Let's see here. On examination of the climbing frame in garden B, you see the space of the missing rug about 2 feet, 61 centimeters up the ladder. That's 6 feet up the ladder. That's about 3/4 up the door. So that's kind of high, right? 3/4 upper door is about 6 feet, right? The pieces of the broken ladder rug are still on the wood, on the floor below. Some of the remaining climbing rugs of the ladder are loose and show signs of wear. Worker A said that we had been requested a new climbing frame for over a year. However, the previous owner kept refusing the request and told us to use our common sense if we had an issue. We gave up access, so we prevented children from playing on that climbing frame. Sadly, the apprentice did not know this. At the end of the tour, worker A escorted you back to your office. You thanked the DM and worker A for their time and confirmed that you will produce a report for the SMT. As the teams are interested in the findings of the review, the SMT will contact the DM soon. As you are leaving, you overhear the DM say to worker A, they are happy the review is over, as there are more important tasks for them to be getting on with, right? So I didn't find it, but you have to find it. Once you put an answer, folks, so based on the time, I didn't find it. So I guess you had to read the whole thing here now, which I wouldn't have time for, but you would have time when it's your exam, when it's your assignment. It's not an assignment as yet, right? I want us to kind of have a full week behind us, right? But the other thing is this: if you couldn't find it, you have to change the answer, because all answers must have a supporting line. Let me say that again. If you put an answer and you can't find a supporting line, you have to change the answer, because you wouldn't get the mark. You only get the mark. Let me try to go back down. You only get the mark. Sorry, I have to change the marker back out of this thing. Yeah, NIBOSH only awards a mark. What's going on with the door? Right, you only get a mark if you can put the answer on the supporting line. Please remember that. Again, it's like cricket. You hit the ball, but you didn't run. If you didn't run, you can't get no runs. But unless if it's a 6 or a 4 or something, right? But you understand, right? If you put an answer and you can't find a line, well, then you have to change that answer. So this is what takes the time. What takes you whole day? What takes whole day to do 7 questions at an open book exam? That is what takes the time. Finding the answers and finding the line. You should support your answer where applicable, using relevant information from the scenario. In the 1 minute I have, I will say this again. To get the mark, you must have the answer and you must have the supporting line. So the answer may be, haven't read it. No, I can change my answer and I can say that the possible uninsured cost of the nursery from this accident could be medical costs associated with the apprentice accident. And then you can say, this is seen where it was mentioned, he was taken to the hospital, right? Only if you have these two would you get the 1 mark that is available for that question. And then you have to duplicate that now 11 times to get the other 11 marks. Think of it, as I said, as the game of cricket. Unless you hit a 4 or 6. If you hit the ball, you had a run. If you hit a run, you can't get it, you can't get a runs then. You can't get a runs, right? So if you put the answer alone, you would fail. If you put the line alone, you would fail. If you put both of them, you will pass. Think you get it, folks? No, NIBOSH is not hard. It's just a little bit long. It's a little bit challenging, right? I have the rule in my hands. I'm going to set this up while I give you the last statement that I'm going to make, right? I had a student in Guyana there. She passed. Should I say she finally passed, right? Because she wasn't getting it. She wasn't getting it at all, right? She wasn't getting the technique. She would write short lines. Just give me a minute to find a pen, right? The pen is on the other desk. Yeah, so she would write these short lines, right? And she would fail. And we keep telling her that you have to put the answer on the line. If you put the line alone, is no marks. If you put the answer alone, is no marks. You must look at here. You should support your answer. All of them have it. Watch it. Look at here, look at here, look at here. Note, note, note. It's not a style. This is not a style. They are telling you what to do, right? This is not a style in the exam. This is not for kicks then. This is not a joke, right? If you catch that, a lot of students catch it. All the students in the last Guyana class caught it and they passed, right? 2022, everybody passed, 100% passes in Guyana, right? But you have to catch the technique and it's gonna take you some time to find those lines, right? I call that also the Rumpelstiltskin effect. You had to go into that passage and find those golden lines. You have to twist it, you have to turn it, but you must put a line. The answer that you don't put a line for, you're not going to get a mark for it. That's how simple it is, right? The British is the British. They don't make joke, right? If you all look at any British person, you know what I'm talking about. Guyanese, Trinidadians, if you say 10 o'clock to come, you could come, 5 past 10, 10 past 10, half past 10. Not the British. If they tell you 10 o'clock, it's 10 o'clock. All right? And for this exam, if they tell you 12 marks, answer online, that's what you have to do. If you catch that from the very first week till last week, you'll pass exam. Hands down, you'll pass exam. The minute you deviate from that, you wouldn't pass the exam. You'll have to come back. And I'll tell you the same thing again. And when you catch it then you'll pass the exam. But we don't need that. You just need to get it one time. Look at there. Today's your first week, not your last week. Today's your first week. So you have 4 months of this, right? Answer and lines, answer and lines. Once you get that, everything is good, as they would say. All right, I am officially finished. I could stop the recording, so if anybody have any questions, they could ask. Or if, hey, remember these recordings make it to YouTube. At least I'm trying to stop it.